The Pittsburgh Pirates today traded Ke'Bryan Hayes to the Cincinnati Reds in what I can only classify as a classic dump. They got two players back. We'll talk about them next. This trade, the impact, and the player himself. Next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, thank you for joining me today on a special emergency pod episode of Locked On Pirates. Ke'Bryan Hayes has been traded to the Cincinnati Reds for a package including single A prospect shortstop Sammy Stafura. He is the number 9 prospect in the Cincinnati Reds system, and a relief pitcher Taylor Rogers on an expiring contract meant basically to offset the payroll for Ke'Bryan Hayes this year. I could see the Pirates turning around and flipping Taylor Rogers, and I'll get into what I think about Sammy Stafura as we move into the show a little bit later. But let's start with the first thing here, Ke'Bryan Hayes. I call it a salary dump because I think that's by definition what it is. This certainly does absolutely nothing to help the team in 2026. My feelings on this deal, they don't have an awful lot to do with the return. I think when I criticized the deal, I think the first thing that people saw on social media was, well, what did you expect, Gary? What did you expect for Ke'Bryan Hayes? Look at his numbers. They're terrible. I know all that. I also know that he's got a ton of defensive runs saved. They don't really have a clear-cut heir apparent at third base. I can hope, in one hand, that they're going to take this money and make sure that they fill third base competently. That would be fun, right? That would be fun if I was rooting for a normal team where I could assume something like that. That'd be great. But what they got had nothing to do with furthering the ball next year. They've taken away something that I think we expected to have. At least we knew we had that defensive cornerstone. Okay? That's all it is. We have subtracted a defensive stalwart. His offense never came along. Never came to the degree that you hoped it would. Remember when he first got called up, everybody? Back in 2020, the COVID year, we're all sitting at home alone, crying. We're wondering if we can go out to the restaurant, having people serve us cocktails in plastic bags. Ke'Bryan Hayes gets called up to the major leagues, and in 24 games, he hits 5 home runs and hits 376 with an OPS of 1.124. It's hyperbole if I said it today, but I remember I've been covering this team since before 2020. I remember when he got called up, supposed experts, people that had been covering the team a lot longer than me, telling me that this window was open exactly as long as Ke'Bryan Hayes would be here. And I kind of chuckled at it at the time because they had nothing else. They had nothing else but Ke'Bryan Hayes here and Oneil Cruz coming. That's what was happening at that time. So I thought it was a little bit silly to be talking about a window opening or anything at that point, but that's the kind of prospect he was seen as, at least once he debuted. Because his debut really was kind of a departure from what he actually did. All through the minors, he was not a home run hitter. He was a doubles hitter, a singles hitter. But he hit way better than he has at the major league level. The biggest story with Ke'Bryan Hayes that we kind of got to forget about this year a little bit, because honestly, he did seem to find something that helped him manage it. The back problems. The back problems were looking like something that this team was going to have this contract strung around their necks. I said before this season started, and those of you that have been with me here since I started doing Locked On will remember. I said if you get the opportunity to trade Ke'Bryan Hayes, like if he happens to have a good enough season that you can manage to move him, do it. And do it for just about anything. Well, that's what this trade classifies as, just about anything. I'm a little disappointed in the return. Not because, again, I think that Ke'Bryan Hayes was worth a whole heck of a lot more than that, but because more than anything, he seemed to be a guy that at least was something. At least there was something like extraordinary about him, right? Pirates just don't have a lot of special. And so at least defensively, he was special. At least he did hit with runners in scoring position pretty well. At least he was pretty good at hitting the ball the other way and moving guys forward. A tremendous defender. Honestly, one of the best I've ever seen. After the emotions of all this die down, I think I'll be able to look back at this much more favorably. His time here, at least defensively speaking. But as far as the package that the Pirates got back from the Cincinnati Reds, Rogers does absolutely nothing for me. He hasn't been good. I'd be surprised if the Pirates don't turn around and flip him before the deadline. Either that or he's here to basically make it okay that they flip some other guys they planned on flipping out of the bullpen. More than anything, he's here to offset the money from the Reds' perspective. It didn't matter that this was the number 9 prospect, shortstop Sammy Stafura. Okay, that's fine. I'm sure he's a fine player, but the Pirates have other shortstop prospects that are already ahead of him. And he's at single A. We're talking a guy that if he debuts before, 2027 or 2028, it would be kind of a shock. And he's not really killing it in single A. Now, he's only 20. But you've got an 18 and 19-year-old in Florentino and Griffin absolutely destroying baseball at that level, right? You know what the difference is between that and this. The Pirates could have gone in a lot of different directions here for Ke'Bryan Hayes. If they wanted to go real far away, could it have at least been like a position they might need? I'm just saying, look a little further, go to the 10th overall prospect in the Cincinnati Reds system. See if you could get Hector Rodriguez or Adolfo Sanchez, way younger, outfielder. Go ahead and stack up on those if that's what you want to do. I didn't need another light-hitting shortstop. I think that's probably the saddest part of it. This had nothing to do with 2026, unless I'm selling you faith. And I would have to be selling you a couple things. I'd have to be selling you this is addition by subtraction, right? Or I could be selling you, because he hits so poorly, you have to assume even if they came out next year and started Nick York at third base or Billy Cook at third base or could they go Jarrett Triolo? I guess. Let's pretend he reinvents his swing entirely and suddenly he's an offensive threat because we know the glove's good. But let's say that they went that route. Does it improve because the offense improved? I guess it could. I guess it could improve in 2026, if only because you believe more in these prospects that for some reason you haven't found an excuse to call up yet. I could go with trying to sell you that they'll reallocate these dollars and go ahead and pick themselves up something on the free agent market that's going to help them because now they've got this extra money. But I haven't seen them do that. I'm not going to sell you something that I haven't seen them do. It's disappointing return. And it's disappointing more just from the standpoint that for any area of a baseball team at all, you're taking a step back here. That's all. It's a step back. Maybe it's a measured step back. Maybe it's a measured step back where you take 2 steps forward. You had to replace this position because the offense was only going to ever get so good there. Maybe that's true. But as we sit here right now, when I'm feeling fresh about it, I don't like it. I just don't like it. And I'm not sure that I'm going to make myself like it. We're going to talk a little bit more about the return, though, when we come back, because it's still a new player. and we're still going to embrace him like he's a new player. So we might as well get started with it. Everyone's been there, logging in early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your favorite spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last minute deals. Ever wonder what your view will actually look like before you buy? The app shows you a panoramic seat view, so there's no surprises whatsoever. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Hey, make sure you hit me with a subscribe and go ahead and vent all you like in the comments. I'll try to reply as best I can. And then tomorrow's show, I'll maybe read some of them and respond to them if they're good questions. You know, if you're trying to just seek blame, like you just want to blame Ben Charrington or Bob Nutting, I totally get it. But right now, let's not focus on blame. We've done enough of that. Let's focus on solution. Let's focus on what's moving forward. So ask me actual baseball questions about it. I'll answer them. Okay. Let's get started with the return. Sammy Stafura, shortstop prospect, and relief pitcher Taylor Rogers. Stafura, he's 20 years old. He was ranked 9th on the Reds prospect list per MLB Pipeline. In 2023, he was a second round selection. He's been okay with Daytona, batting 262, 393, 411 on the slash line. He's got 4 home runs, 48 RBIs in 321 at bats in 88 games. He's got an 804 OPS, career best for the young shortstop. He's got a very short career though, and it's all been at the low A level. Yeah, he is what he is. Again, I think the Pirates have several guys that are probably ahead of him in line for shortstop. I don't have a clue as to how his glove plays quite yet, but I'm looking into it. Maybe I'll have that tomorrow. It's probably not going to be here till 27 or 28 though, so I'm not sure that it's worth all that much investigation. Again, I think he'd have to take 2 machetes and 5 clubs to get past what's in front of him just to even touch shortstop at the major league level, and that's a while off yet. Rogers, 34, veteran reliever. You remember him from San Francisco probably. He's the one that throws that ball where he almost scrapes his knuckles on the ground when he comes across with it. He's been with Minnesota, San Diego, Milwaukee, Cincinnati, and now the Pirates. He's consistently been one of the better left-handed relief pitchers in baseball. But this year, you know, he's only gone 33 games. He hasn't really been great this year. I think this is more of a dump for Cincinnati than anything. They're just clearing off a little bit of money from their books to make room for Hayes. The other part of this deal that I think was a little bit interesting is that they decided to eat all of Ke'Bryan Hayes' money that was remaining. Now, the Pirates structured his deal in such a way where it was very front-loaded. In other words, the biggest paydays for him were at the beginning, and we're already through those. So now you're going to get into the lower pays where he makes 7 or 8 million per for the rest of the way out until he gets to his option year. Basically, what the Pirates have done here is they have fundamentally changed their core. They decided that Brian Hayes was part of it when they extended him years ago, and now they're saying you are no longer part of it. Now, he's no longer part of it because of injury. He's no longer part of it because the offense was a huge disappointment in the long run. But he did not disappoint with the glove. I wish him well. I'm going to miss watching him play defense. He was unbelievable. Probably saved the game last night, bluntly. Really great player defensively. One of the most talented I've ever seen. And I'm talking, I go all the way back to the days of like Terry Pendleton, and I even saw a little bit of Brooks Robinson towards the end. Arenado obviously has been a comp throughout Cabrian Hayes' career, and he's won on reputation a few years that I think Cabrian probably could have taken it from him. But this is a good move probably for Cabrian. Cincinnati's ballpark is smaller. He'll probably hit more home runs there than he has in Pittsburgh. That said, he didn't hit them when we went to Cincinnati, did he? So Cabrian Hayes is a Cincinnati Red. What do you think about trading in the division here? I guess if Cabrian Hayes was as bad as many of you have told me he is, and I have certainly expressed I felt he was offensively, I guess we should probably be okay with him going to a division rival, because if he wasn't good enough for this team the way they hit, well, crap. He's probably going to be perfect for one of our rivals, right? We should be openly hoping for it. Of course, the fear is that they suddenly fix him, right? And wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something if Cabrian Hayes actually turned out to be a good offensive player with another team? I'll tell you what, you couldn't put a knife in the back quicker of any GM that made the trade if that was the case. He's gone through, I think, 3 different hitting coaches here. And he's only had one GM as a major leaguer. He was obviously drafted by another that drug his feet, dragging him up through the system in the first place. He's been in this system a long, long time. He's a Pirate through and through. And I guess in some ways, maybe therein lies the biggest reason he needed to go. He's not going to just suddenly get massively better here in Pittsburgh, because he had settled into what Pittsburgh is. He knew what their expectations were. He knew what they asked for. He knew the resources they had to help. Maybe Cincinnati will have a new set of eyes and be able to help him out. Defensively, he's going to help out whatever club he plays for. I probably personally don't believe this will be his last stop. I think he'll get moved from Cincinnati at some point, not this year, but I think at some point he will get moved. I'm a little shocked. That Cincinnati wanted him. I don't think he really fits their biggest needs. They need an outfielder really bad. So if I'm in Cincinnati, I don't know that I'm 100% excited either. This was a weird move. It was a weird one. In some ways, I like the Adam Frazier return better. At least that one I kind of feel might actually help next year. In fact, maybe that move in and of itself is why they felt comfortable with it. Because maybe they feel like they have shortstop sewed up. Interesting that in today's game, they went with IKF at third base and Peguero at shortstop. I would imagine IKF is still a hot commodity here at this trade deadline. But if he's not, third base is really a much better position for him. So I would be okay with him being the third baseman. If they signed him for another year, let's say they decide the best they can do is bring IKF back and have him play third base. Would that be an improvement for this team? Like if you put Cam Devaney at shortstop, let's say he's the one that breaks through, and then IKF plays third base, you have no Cabrian Hayes. You lose a little bit on defense, no doubt. No doubt. I know IKF's a former Gold Glover and everything, but he's just not that anymore. Decent fielder, just not that. You're going to lose a little bit. Do you lose enough that you feel like this is crippling? Probably not. Offensively, is it better? Yeah, but no more home runs. Probably a better average. Is that enough of an improvement? Probably not. So the biggest question remains, what's the vision here? If this was really just a starter, moving a guy off to make room and we're going to improve and that's what's going to happen, okay. I think it's a lot to ask of Ben Cherington that everyone trust him, that this deadline shouldn't reflect what we're going to see in 2026 and that they're going to do something massive in the offseason. I don't think he's earned that trust. I wonder if he's owned it with the guy that really matters. When we come back, let's talk just a little bit more about this. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need the extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I was on this hole the other day. It was an island shot, and all 4 of my buddies were like, we're going to make this shot. Not a single one of us made it. I wish we had had one of these 5-Hour Energies. Maybe it would have given us the boost we needed. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LockedOnGolf to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th. On one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. All right, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Hey, if you're going to sell me that everything you do is about 2026, this is the type of deal that you can't do without a very public explanation of your thinking. They're going to have to explain how this makes the team better in 2026, and they're not going to have a good answer. Just brace yourself for it. Because when they do talk to him and when they ask, he's going to talk about needing to improve that position offensively and blah, blah, blah. And the big question that's still going to be hanging out there is, okay, but this didn't do that. And you wouldn't expect it to. You wouldn't expect to be trading Brian Hayes for an instantly better and replaceable third baseman. But you do need the vision explained. You do need somebody to explain to you where that third baseman's coming from. Who are our options for third base? I could name them off. I already did some of them, right? York and Billy Cook and IKF for now and Jared Triolo at some point. Even Nick Gonzalez can play third base. Liover Peguero can play third base. You're going to take a hit defensively, so we're going to have to prepare for that. And offensively, I think they might just kind of get by without much of a feeling here. I don't know that we'll feel it all that much. Brian Hayes was one of those guys that I felt like they tried real hard to keep out of the very bottom of the order. They would try real hard to keep him at like 6 or whatever. Well, there's no need to do that anymore. Start thinking differently. Start thinking about who you might want to use differently. Maybe this gets you the room that you needed to bring guys like Nick York up here, or Billy Cook, or Cam Devaney, or Simon. But you got to start doing it. That's the part that you have to start showing us. You make these trades, and then what do you do instantly? You backfill it with IKF. Don't do that. If you're going to trade somebody and sell me that you've got better in-house options, if that's what I'm expected to believe, well, start showing them to me. Let them play. Bring them up here and get it started. If you let them start to play, maybe they start to look like, I don't know, the Miami Marlins. who brought up a bunch of nobody kids. And all of a sudden, they've started coming together and playing baseball towards the end of the year, haven't they? They've almost got that team at 500 at one point. And that was a train wreck of a team to begin this year. Nobody knew anybody on their roster. There was a little bit of hope for Stowers, a little bit of hope for Norby, a couple other guys that were interesting. But they've turned into something because they just let kids play. Quit clogging us up with leftovers and guys that should be in nursing homes and people that should be collecting pensions. And start letting these kids actually play. You should have done that back in 2021. And then maybe we wouldn't have as many guys hanging out there where we just don't know what they are. And here's another thought. Maybe quit trading for guys that that are so far away we're going to forget their names by the time they get a shot, if they ever do. I got to be real. I just don't see a path for this kid. I just don't. And I don't want to be cruel about it or rude. I don't know the kid. I don't, it means nothing to me whether Stafara ever makes it here or not. I hope he does. I hope he does. But by the time he does, we could be a whole new GM into this thing, and this window should already be wide open by then. And if it isn't, well, you're in an awful lot of trouble with Paul Skeens and probably looking to trade him. And you're running out of time on Brian Reynolds, and you're probably running out of time on O'Neal Cruz. There was no component of this trade that matters before any of that. This didn't move the ball forward. This didn't improve the team for 2026. All it did is take away a defensive star who couldn't hit and replace him with nothing. The only way this is good is if it's addition by subtraction. Or if they do something they've never done, if they invest this money back in and add some on top, because let's be real about what players cost. Okay, sold. Go out and get me Eugenio Suarez next year to be the starting third baseman. And I'll be like, man, wasn't it great the day they traded Brian Hayes to make room for that? That's what you need to see. That's the vision you need to hear about. They don't have to name players. In fact, I don't think they're legally allowed to, but by the CBA. But you should have some kind of an understanding of the overall plan here. We traded Brian Hayes because we felt like we need to upgrade the position. And in order to upgrade that position, we needed him moved out of the way. That's what had to happen. It's a shame. Pat him on the back and wish him luck. We made a mistake. We signed him. We thought it was going to be one thing. It turned out to be another. Okay. But somebody's got to talk at some point, and it shouldn't just be me. Somebody from the team needs to actually address this. Especially after everybody involved went out of their way to talk about the importance of making things better in 2026. And all they've done so far is move one rental for a guy that is blocked in AAA by another bad team. And they haven't had the nuts to call up yet themselves. And traded somebody that was supposed to be part of your core for one guy you're going to get rid of immediately and another guy you won't see for 3 or 4 years if you ever see him. You wonder why fans get upset with trades? Well, when they don't make any sense like this, and they're very easy to label as dumps and nothing more, well, it's frustrating, especially at a time when everybody claimed to have learned the lesson, knew they had to move the ball forward. The guys they had to move like this, like Brian Hayes and David Bednar and Mitch Keller and anybody else that has term or control, the thought had to be, you got to do something that makes the team better next year. Has to. If they had been able to get like Cam Collier from Cincinnati, I'm excited. That's a prospect that could really help. That's a third base prospect that could really help. He might even be able to be here next year. Oh, and he looks pretty good in their system. That's not what happened. It's not what happened. This is a step back again. Okay. And it's a sad story. Brian Hayes' story overall is sad. It really is. The offensive promise was incredible. The back problems really robbed him of something. And then the Pirates just had no ability ever to identify his problems offensively and help him overcome them. Maybe nobody can. Maybe Brian Hayes isn't receptive to it. Maybe Brian Hayes has too much outside interference on what he does offensively. I don't know. All I know is there's been nothing but issue after issue after issue here. All the way from firing a hitting coach that he actually connected with to butting heads with his father about his training to butting heads with his family about his usage or the treatments for his back or his rest time, everything that you could possibly imagine. It's been a mess, and it didn't need to be. And the funny thing is, he was the signal of something new coming. They extended him. It was an extension that we had not seen this team do before. It was a threshold that we didn't think they'd cross. They did that again with Brian Reynolds. They did that again with Mitch Keller. And they just basically told the team and us, that doesn't matter. Because when it comes right down to it, we'll dump it in a heartbeat. It's a disappointing day, disappointing trade. Again, not overly upset to lose Brian Hayes. It's something I proposed myself. Little bit underwhelmed by what they got back, especially the timing of what they got back. And if that's the best you could get, quite frankly, I wouldn't have done it. That's all there is to it. I wouldn't have done it. It makes me wonder what pathetic packages there were from the other teams I heard were interested. Because if that's the best they could do, is to go intra-division and trade for pieces that aren't helping you move the ball forward at all. Not great. And it shows what the Pirates really think Brian Hayes has to offer. To so cavalierly trade him to a team that you're going to be directly competing with for the duration of his contract. That's all I got for you this evening. But I'll be back tomorrow with more thoughts on this after I've digested it a little bit more. Happy trade deadline, everybody. Shiz just got real. Let's go Bucks.